July 7, 2023. Good day all. This is a message from Sierra Victor. Internal Principles, Part 2. Movable and stationary assets. Movable and stationary assets is the equipment and resources needed to assist the human capital in achieving their objectives. In order to know which equipment and resources is needed, the objective must first be identified. The objective. In a South Africa SHTF scenario, this would be easy as it would be to protect life and property against hostilities. The threat. In our case, the threat would be internal political instability, revolution, or war. This internal instability can either be due to internal dissatisfaction with service deliveries etc., or it can be fueled by third-party instigation from outside our borders. The political or ideological drive would make little difference to the man and the woman on the street, as in both they will face the same threat. The different responses to the threat. As said in our previous message, the majority of our people stays in build-up areas like towns and cities. Bugging out. The initial response would be to flee to the countryside and out of the cities. This will only succeed with an effective and reliable early warning system in place. The availability of electricity for communication, fuel, and something as simple as traffic lights not working in a city, could have a huge impact on your time schedule to keep in mind. If only 10,000 other people also decide to flee your city and you add their vehicles with caravans or trailers to the normal traffic congestion, this has the potential to caught you stuck somewhere on a highway in a very vulnerable position. The use of back roads and even gravel roads are sometimes offered as a strategy. Back roads gets clogged up even easier than highways, and gravel roads will advertise your position for kilometers around you. Any convoy in a conflict or hostile environment is a high risk best avoided. In a following message we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of convoy driving in more detail as part of a movement security broadcast. Bugging in. In our opinion, this is the best strategy. Or at least for the first week or two. In a following message we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of bugging in more detail. For this message we will concentrate on the bugging in response, but once again, the same principles can be applied to bugging out. Let's look at the subject of this message, namely movable and stationary assets. Movable assets. Movable assets will, as the name suggests, be anything movable that can be used to secure, defend, and control your situation. Movable assets require support in the form of maintenance. It is something with high value with mobility as advantage. Examples would be patrol vehicles, fuel trucks, ambulances, and firefighting vehicles, ERPs, or elevated reconnaissance platforms, like drones, planes, helicopters etc., and smaller assets like radio base stations, generators, movable security lighting and barricading like concrete blocks, razor wire etc. A movable asset can also be an individual with special skills like a doctor, medic, signaler, sniper, or reconnaissance operator etc. Stationary assets. Primarily these would be logistical points and sources, but it would also include airports, communication centers like radio stations, hospitals, fuel depots, electrical substations, supermarkets, and warehouses. During SHTF all these will be targeted for looting or in an effort to disrupt the government's efforts to stabilize the situation. As law-abiding citizens in a country with a hugely understaffed and under-equipped police force, it would be our duty to assist them in securing and defending these assets or key points. Whoever have or control the most assets will have an advantage. It is therefore of utmost importance to gain access to as much as possible and to deny the threat access. The most common mistake people make is to think that during SHTF they will bug into their house or neighborhood and defend only their own property or the area. That might be a short-term survival strategy, but is not a sustainable solution. Civil unrest can keep on for days or even weeks, and a revolution or civil war for months or even years. You will eventually run out of supplies. You will need to develop a proactive strategy to ensure you can hold out longer than the enemy. The most basic needs of a human is water, food, and shelter. In all-out chaos, water and food will become a scarce and critical commodity. To hide in your house will allow the threat access to your supermarkets and water supply. It will allow them access to your fuel reserves, medical supplies, communication etc. in your town. You don't want that to happen. We will discuss this in more detail in our next message around logistics. Mental exercise. Instead of driving through your neighborhood, town, or city listening to the radio or thinking about normal daily matters, switch off the radio and start identifying assets. Use the following: value, accessibility, terrain, existing security measures, defendability. Thank you for listening or reading this message. Please feel free to use and distribute as needed. Our messages are not by any means enticing you to a revolution of sorts, but rather to equip you with the necessary theoretical background in order to assist local armed forces or police in stabilizing a SHTF situation. Please contact any admin on any Sierra Victor group for our previous material or search for our channel on YouTube. In our next message we will continue with Internal Principles, Part 3. We wish you well. Sierra Victor.